My name is Ausa, and I'm going to be moderating this discussion. We will be taking questions from the audience, and
I'll not split you.
and I don't know. Maybe you think you're hallucinating, but these are real men over here. My first question to you guys, before we take some questions from the audience, would be: now you, Örlygur, and I, we're both from Húsavík. Coincidentally, it is a small town in northeast of Iceland, and how did this story come to Húsavík, come to Iceland?
Well, as you say, I mean, Húsavík is a small town. It's a town of 2,300 people, but it has a remarkable story that connects with exploration. Húsavík was the first place where Viking explorers came to Iceland. They came there. There was a Swedish group of Vikings that came before the Norwegians settled here in Reykjavik, and they set out to sail around the island. They didn't know if it was an island or if it was a part of a greater landmass further west, and they wanted to establish it. When winter came, they happened to be outside Skjálfandi Bay. They sailed in there, they built a house, they stayed for the winter and named the place Húsavík. But growing up in Húsavík, I was always fascinated with the stories of space. And for some very strange reason, it wasn't until I was about 20 years old that I first learned that the Apollo astronauts, Mark's father and the others that went to the moon, had trained, well, basically in my backyard. And I was so thrilled to learn this. And that's the reason I started the museum, to tell stories of all of these explorers and expeditions with connections to my hometown. And I know your father really enjoyed his time here in Iceland.
Absolutely true. I think not just my father, but all of the astronauts found that, they had to train all over the world. They had to do jungle training and training in the mountain and training in the deserts, and because at that time the spacecraft could come down anywhere, and they had to be able to survive wherever it came down. But they also had very specific Earth science objectives. And the first and foremost was to collect rock samples from the moon, to understand how the moon and the Earth were connected to one another, and to understand the natural history of both of those bodies. So when I've talked to many of them, and I've spoken to many of them, unfortunately many of them are gone now, but I asked them, what was your favorite part of your training? And Iceland, it always comes up. The geological training that they did here, just to tell you, they did the field training because they tried to teach geology to these astronauts in a classroom. And they were like this. It just wasn't working. So they decided, okay, we need to get them out into the field. We need to send some geologists with them and teach them about how to recognize a diverse sample of geologic samples so that we can make sure that we get the right material back to study. This hammer that Örlygur this was my father's geologic hammer.
Sorry, this was your father's hammer?
This is my father's rock hammer that he used when he trained here in Iceland.
Are you kidding?
Nearly 60 years ago, I guess.
That's amazing.
And I've brought it here for Örly to put in the museum in Húsavík because I think it's a nice representation of both the importance of Iceland in the space program and the importance of understanding our Earth science as we go forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so through this story of the astronauts, the Exploration Museum is born. And it happens one day, actually 10 years ago, that a couple from the United States comes to visit. They pay for their ticket and walk around for 45 minutes or an hour. And on the way out, they leave a little red folder on the ticket counter, and they walk out the door. They don't say anything. They just leave it there. And in this folder were letters from your father and from Sir Edmund Hillary to the original expedition leader who planned this whole thing. And it turned out that he had made a promise to your dad not to share the story. Your dad wanted this to be a private thing.
Yeah, that's very characteristic of my father. Stay under the light, stay under the radar, yes. and do the things that he felt were important because he felt they were important, not because he wanted someone to recognize it.
And all the footage from this trip in '85, because he had made this promise to your father, but before he made that promise, he imagined to do something with it, so he had already hired a cinematographer who came along on this trip. But because he made this promise, he decided, I'll put all this footage in a box and I'll keep it in a good place. And I forgot what it was. And so the footage was lost for almost 40 years, and it was only rediscovered around the start of this year. And that allowed us to go now to the North Pole. We went in July and August.
So exactly 40 years later, you went to the North Pole,
yes.
and you retraced their steps.
Yes, we did.
But how did you feel like? What was it like? What was it like to do?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it was dramatically different, of course. I think 1975, around 1975 is when the average temperature of the planet starts to go up dramatically.
Exactly.
So at that time, there was, of course, they went in April, so it was a bit different than going in the middle of summer. But a lot more sea ice. The sea ice is much thicker, and it's just a very different climate. It's a very different situation, and I think that going back. When Örly first talked to me, he said, we'd like to go back. Would you like to go? I said, absolutely. And I think what a great opportunity for us to not only tell a story of a friendship of these two explorers, but to make it relevant for today, to talk about how the planet is changing and how we have to be better stewards of our planet. And I know that that's what this assembly is all about. And so I'm thrilled to be here. I think it's a really nice connection for all of us.
And inside our story, inside the film that we're making, there's of course the story where the North Pole is sort of the stage for these explorers, these great explorers of the 20th century. We also look at the North Pole and how it has changed, but also on the way back from the North Pole. And this is my favorite part. On the way back from the North Pole, there's a big snowstorm, and they were lucky to make it back to Lake Hazen on Ellesmere Island, and they stay for 3 days in a hut waiting out the storm. And his father had come prepared because he had read up about all the famous explorers of the polar regions, and during these 3 days he did nothing but to tell these stories, and fascinating stories. And for me, this is because I'm a storyteller and we both are, it's my favorite element of this story. This moment that these explorers shared, stuck in a hut, thinking about the past and the future, I guess.
Wow, that's amazing. Talking about Edmund Rasmussen and now they were at on the same place.
Yes.
I think we should now open up for some questions from the audience. We need to put the lights on in the room so I can see. Please raise your hand if you have a question. And I might just ask you, Mark, because you have now recently created a foundation called Vantage Earth Foundation. How is that involved in the documentary that will come out hopefully very soon?
Yeah. So my family and I wanted to come up with something that we could do that was a way to maybe give back a bit for the extraordinary support that our family has received, not just from the United States, but from the entire world. And so we also have a great love of music, and we have this concern for the environment. So we wanted to try to put those things together, which we've done with Vantage Earth Foundation. It's an NGO that I've just founded this year. So it's so new, in fact, that I don't even have the website finished. So apologies for that.
We have to wait a little bit.
But the idea of Vantage Earth is that when people see the planet from space, they feel differently about it. They see it as an oasis. They see it as a garden. They see it as something that doesn't have borders or boundaries or different philosophies or cultures. They see it as one place. And this is a cognitive shift. It's called the overview effect, and many astronauts have talked about it. So the idea of Vantage Earth Foundation is to try to educate and encourage this type of feeling about our planet through music, primarily. So we think that music is a great way to connect with people, as you saw from the opening of our two of our musicians and directors and folks involved in the project. And we're writing original music for this documentary, all about this idea that we have to be better stewards of the planet. Mm-hmm. And so that's what Vantage Earth is all about. That's
amazing. And we will see some of this music in the final plenary on Saturday. You will be playing a song written by yourself, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And your daughter?
Performing a song, yeah. My daughter will be singing, and we'll be playing a song that is, it's a song from actually the end credit song of the documentary about my father. It's called Armstrong, and the song itself is called Flight of Fancy. And it's about my dad's love of being in a glider, and a memory I have of him taking me up when I was 6 years old, and how I noticed, and it stayed with me all these years, that he was very busy. He was in training, and he was always sort of something on his mind, always something on his mind. But maybe one of the few times I saw him where he could just leave all the problems on the ground and enjoy this moment, just soaring on the wind. And it was a very powerful thing that I didn't realize was there until after he passed away. And then the memory came back to me, and the song literally just sort of poured out of me. And so that's the song that we'll perform for you in a few days.
Thank you. Thank you. Look forward to hearing it live. And I think our time is up now, but I do believe we need to give a round of applause to our great explorers, performers. Please take a bow, gentlemen. And thank you, Mark and Örlygur. This was the final plenary of today. There are sessions starting in 10 minutes, and then at 7:15, we will meet in the welcome receptions downstairs. Thank you again, gentlemen. Looking forward to seeing the documentary.